The Minnesota Vikings select.
He's a longtime NFL draft expert who's been sweating Vikings football since the Randy Moss era.
Straight cash, homie.
Welcome to Thor Talks Purple.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into a War Room Wednesday edition of Thor Talks Purple. I'm here, as I am every day, with producer AJ. AJ, are you staying warm over there? Are you out of the snow?
Oh my God, barely. I was out there for like an hour or so last night shoveling the drive. We had to get, it's garbage day for us, so we had to get everything down, but it was such a pain in the butt. So I'm glad to see you got into the studio apparently today and navigated the snow.
I did. I was out there late with the snowblower. I put a video out on my Twitter of me out there with the snowblower late last night. Luckily, we were able to get out this morning. But yeah, we've gotten pelted in the city. I know we have a lot of listeners and viewers from around the country and around the world, as I've found out in my brief time here. I love seeing people from other countries saying, follow the show, watch the show. Yeah. But yeah, if you're not in the area, in the area, we have gotten absolutely pelted with snow. But happy to be here with you guys today, talking the NFL draft through the prism of the Minnesota Vikings. So let's get into it, AJ.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's maybe revisit here after Wednesday. Despite the win, the Vikings actually currently are going to sit in that 11 slot for the upcoming draft. And am I right in saying that right now projecting the Vikings are probably going to end up either as high as maybe 9, as low as maybe 12 in that window, Thor?
Yeah, that's what it's looking like right now. Yeah, 95+% chance you're going to be in that window. Don't have enough games left to move up or down, and it looks like you're a bit solidified into that spot. Only 2 teams above you in the standings. Cincinnati. The one interesting thing about that was over the weekend, the Vikings, their strength of schedule ends up tying with the Bengals. For now, they've moved into a tie with the Bengals. That's topical for if the Vikings finish with the same record as the Bengals. The lower strength of schedule is the one that wins the tiebreaker from the NFL draft perspective. It's flipped when you're talking, that from like playoff iteration, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Tiebreaker we use in the NFL draft to break the records. It's the strength of schedule, but who played the easiest, they get to go higher. So something interesting to think about. The Vikings, if their opponents finish with the worst record closing out the season here than the Bengals ones, they would end up winning that. And if you pull into that tie with the Bengals, you could then end up winning that tiebreaker. But Miami continuing to play well. Miami now won 4 straight games. They beat the Jets over the weekend. So the Vikings, even though you beat the Commanders, you end up staying in that 11th slot. So we'll see this weekend. Obviously, Vikings going to Dallas. Dallas right now sitting with that 15th slot. They're kind of in this quagmire as well. But yeah, right now, Vikings, you stay in the 11th slot despite the win against Washington.
So let's talk about that, though, because if that window is going to be anywhere from 9 here, where the Rams currently sit via the Atlanta trade, and down to 12 here, where the Dolphins currently sit. From my understanding, you've expressed there are some pretty quality guys, despite this not being like a heavy quarterback draft. There are some higher quality players and athletes in college right now who the Vikings could look to potentially select here. So I'm going to throw some names at you here, if you don't mind. And I want to have you just kind of expel your knowledge, what you know about these guys, and we can kind of dive in here. So one, we know safety is going to be an issue for the Vikings here after this season. They're going to want to look to address that. So one guy I'll toss out here is Ohio State's Caleb Downs. What do you know about him?
Caleb Downs, one of the best players in this class. Obviously, the safety position is a little bit devalued, which is how Caleb Downs could get closer to the end of that top 10 than the top of it, where you'd probably just rank his talent in a vacuum. But Caleb Downs, it's one of those queens on the chessboard kind of a guy. It's the guy that you can move everywhere. It's a guy that Brian Flores would love. Caleb Downs, he was starting immediately the day he stepped on campus at Alabama as a true freshman. That was in 2023. Then he transfers to Ohio State 2024 as a true sophomore. Was devastating on that defense. Ends up winning a national title, and of course he's back this year as well. Going to try for another national title with Ohio State. But over those 3 years, Caleb Downs been starting. He has accrued extensive experience as a center field free safety type guy, moving up into the box in the nickel. They've even moonlighted him at times. They'll sneak him up on the edge and send him as an edge rusher off the edge. They've over his career has some sporadic snaps as a boundary corner as well. But really what he is a move piece that you can use to nullify mismatches on the other side. fabulous athlete. Caleb Downs, he's going to run in the 4.3s at the NFL Combine in late February. He's been tremendous in coverage over his career, has an 85 PFF grade or above in coverage every single year. The run defense, he is incredible at that. Ohio State actually has used him a lot as sort of in between a deep free safety and then an in the box guy. Like they've kind of used him frequently as essentially like as a deep middle linebacker, where if anyone somehow gets past the first and second level of the Ohio State defense, you ain't going further than that, because Caleb Downs is a sideline to sideline a vacuum cleaner, essentially. If any leaks that get out of there, you ain't getting past Caleb Downs then. And so you have that utility with him. You have the situational pass rushing utility. And then again, just fabulous in coverage. It's a guy who has the instincts that sees the play, a beat or two before. So he triggers real quick, but then he's a world-class athlete as well. So Caleb Downs is always around the ball. The safety position is devalued, yes, but the Vikings badly need a safety, and Caleb Downs, top of the line safety prospect. You look at the last 15, 20 years, Caleb Downs, he is going to be comped to some lofty names over the last 20 years. There's not a whole lot of guys that you can end up comparing him to. There was a GM over the summer, an anonymous quote. I think this was to Jordan Schultz, but he said there's some Earl Thomas and Eric Berry to Caleb Downs' game, just a special player. I would have to agree with that. And in addition, Caleb Downs also returns punts. Very good at that as well. So, Miles Price, he been okay this year, but if you got Caleb Downs, that is something that you could consider there as well, as putting him in as a returner. Last thing about Caleb Downs, not only the extensive experience with Blue Bloods from day one, difference maker as a true freshman all the way through till now, but you also have bloodlines there. AJ, the NFL loves their bloodlines, and Caleb Downs has them in spades. He is the son of former NFL running back Gary Downs. He is the nephew of former NFL cornerback Dre Bly, and he is the brother of Colts wide receiver Josh Downs. Caleb Downs has NFL bloodlines coursing through the veins. The Vikings, you end up picking, in that 9-10 kind of a range. Is there any shot Caleb Downs could fall down to you? I think some people would look at his game and say, well, no, that player is too good to fall down there. But we've seen some of those stud safeties fall a little bit further than, maybe you would project, or certainly that they would be on big boards. This one might evoke back to the Kyle Hamilton thing. And maybe for Kwesi, if he's sitting in that seat in April, and Caleb Downs starts falling down, might be a chance to kind of rewrite history there and stay put and take Caleb Downs would certainly be a possibility.
It's going to be tough, because if they do, whoever they sign, whoever they draft, it's going to be massive shoes to fill. You're stepping into a role where it's a future Hall of Famer with Harrison Smith. And granted, he's lost a step or two, but the mind is still good. And I think that is a major key, because like you're highlighting how good of an athlete he is. Do you think he has the mental capability to, step into a Brian Flores type of defense and be that, you are one of the furthest back guys. You see so much of the field and play, and it's kind of on the safety to call out certain things at times, or like choreograph in between downs. Do you think he steps in there? And then, it feels like Vikings fans have been spoiled. The past decade plus, you've had Harrison Smith since 2012, 2013, kind of roaming in that secondary. And now it's going to be somebody else. Do you think he's able to maybe pick up that load and work towards being even a fraction of what Harrison Smith has been for the Vikings?
Yeah, it's someone that I think when Brian Flores hypothetically would sit down with him over the off, at the combine, you bring him in to your room, at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. Every team has like a luxury suite, around the state, and then the prospects, they go through their little car wash with the interviews. I'm sure Brian Flores is like, guys, I got this one. I want to talk to this kid. Very, very smart football player. You can see that on his film. But to your point, AJ, not just a smart, and instincts and you get the, if you're in center field and you're looking down, you get the full all 22 look, and him kind of knowing, a beat or two in advance of where the ball is going or what the concept is, whatever. But also the ability to play all those different roles. That's what he was doing right from the get. He gets to Alabama. He has been in complicated defensive systems where he's played all these different roles. Worn all these different hats. I think that's old hat to Caleb Downs, right? There's a lot of young safeties coming to the NFL. You wouldn't trust them with those kinds of responsibilities. And certainly he's not going to be Harrison Smith from the perspective, like, the 20,000 hours in the cockpit, like Malcolm Gladwell. But Caleb Downs is, to use like Top Gun. That's the sort of the prospect that you would want to sort of follow, in that footstep, get all the guys on the same page. And everything the NFL does and Brian Flores does now to disguise their coverage looks pre-snap, and then they flower out to something else, give you a different picture right after the snap. That requires really smart second-level players that can play all kinds of different roles. Caleb Downs would certainly qualify for that.
Let's say defense here, and I'll throw another guy, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the guy that you and I drafted in our 2-round mock last War Room Wednesday. LSU cornerback Mansoor Delane. Another guy that I know you like a lot and you value him. I think a smidge higher than some of the other cornerbacks around those rankings as well. You've said he's realistic, but tell me about his game and what you like.
Yeah, Delane Island, as I call him, and I think he's CB1. I disagree with some other folks out there. There's a lot of folks that still have Tennessee's Jermod McCoy as CB1. I would be surprised if Jermod McCoy ends up being CB1. I don't know 100% that Jermod McCoy is going to be in this class, but Jermod McCoy got injured in January, and we haven't seen him this year yet. So is he going to declare for the draft, having not played this season? If he does, that's not a guy I would take in the top 10 personally. Jermod McCoy is not going to test as upper echelon, elite athlete at the position. Now, neither is Delane. That's the nitpick on his profile, is he's a good athlete, but not a great athlete. And then the frame is a little bit smaller on Delane, and he has a little bit shorter arms, but absolutely is a boundary cornerback and has arguably been the best one in the nation this year, just erasing people. 91.0 PFF grade for Mansoor Delane, and playing on a team where most of his teammates were playing down this year. Delane transfers in from Virginia Tech and erased one side of the field throughout. So LSU, a team that was in some bad spots this year, but they could count on Delane all season long to take care of his responsibilities. Delane, and you saw teams targeting him less and less. Like, we don't want to get involved with that. Delane was only targeted 35 times this fall because of this. Gives up 13 receptions, only 147 yards allowed in coverage for Mansoor Delane, playing an SEC schedule. 0 touchdowns allowed as well, and he had 2 interceptions. Get this, AJ, on targets at Mansoor Delane, and teams are being very careful about when to approach this guy in coverage, as indicated by the only 35 targets thrown to him. But on those, a passer rating allowed for Mansoor Delane, 26.7. It shuts out the lights. That's the stat of it would be better off if you were just spiking. Yeah. This season, you would have been better off just spiking the ball than throwing at Mansoor Delane. The Vikings badly need a boundary cornerback. Been talking about this for a while. Guy to put across from Isaiah Rodgers, kick Byron Murphy back into the full-time nickel role that he's the best at, and then move Josh Metellus back to his move piece role and get the universe back in homeostasis, right? To take the cornerback early, that's what you would do. It's not going to be as sexy of a pick as Caleb Downs or a certain running back that used to wear a gold helmet that we're going to be talking about here in a bit, when I think fans are probably going to be pushing for one of those two guys. Cornerback might, not be at the forefront there, but a very important position for the Vikings to address this offseason, whether that's in free agency or whether that's in the draft. If you don't hit that one in free agency, my preference for the Vikings would not to be going into another fall where Murphy has to be on the boundary, where Metellus has to be in the nickel, and you take Mansoor Delane, you go back to the LSU well, something the Vikings have done frequently over the years. That would allow you to address that and get those guys back in their correct spot.
And let's just say defense here for maybe the last guy before we switch to the offensive side of the ball. But Clemson defensive tackle Peter Woods. I mean, they're going to need probably a big body, somebody who can push some guys around, get to stop the run, maybe rush the passer. What can you tell me about Peter Woods?
I had to toss this name in. It's not the biggest, for folks out there that are like, oh, that's not our biggest need. I agree with you. And I do think at least one of the veteran, I think Javon Hargrave is going to get cut after this year. Hargrave actually had a good game on Sunday, so we'll hat tip him on that. But I think he's probably getting cut after this season. But even after that, not your biggest need. So certainly I agree with that. And honestly, I'll even go further. My preference might be to day two kind of run stuffer guy to replace some of the utility you traded out when you traded Harrison Phillips, true nose tackle. That is not Peter Woods, but I have to bring him up because this guy is destructive and there's a shot that he falls. And the reason that he would fall is he took a step back this year in conjunction essentially with the rest of his teammates. Clemson, of course, had a wildly disappointing season and their defense was not nearly as good overall as we thought it would be, but they have a whole bunch of really good players on it. Peter Woods is one. Avion Terrell, their cornerback, is a cornerback that I'm really interested in too. I have Terrell and Delane for me, are kind of like that. But Peter Woods, there is a shot, again, game falling back a little bit in these bad circumstances with a new defensive coordinator, Tom Allen there at Clemson, where maybe he gets out of the top 5 or 6 and maybe he falls back towards the end of that top 10 or just outside of it, the kind of area where the Vikings will be sitting. If he did, that's going to spur a very interesting discussion because you don't get 3 techniques that are this talented in every single class. And, with the Vikings, Woods in the 3-4 fronts, he would be playing the defensive end thing. And funny enough, Peter Woods is shown to have the versatility to play around the line. With Clemson, first half of 2024, they actually played him, even though the kid's 6'3", 310, they played him as an outside edge rusher, stand-up edge rusher for half of the season in 2024 because he is so athletic and so disruptive. And certainly he could set the edge out there when he was out there, but he also got after the quarterback real quick. You don't see 6'3", 310 guys playing edge rusher in college football very often, but we got to see half a season with that with Peter Woods. And then since then, he has been back to his normal sort of 3 technique position in that defense. But again, you have versatility there, an athletic freak, of course, and a guy that knows how to get into the backfield and cause some disruption. This would be one where the Vikings are projected to be sitting if he ends up trickling through a little bit and falls through the wickets because this season wasn't as statistically dominant as before. You might have a proposition where at a position of value, a guy has fallen to you that maybe should have gone in the top 5, 6, where you're sitting 5, 6 spots after that. You have to have that discussion. So I had to bring up Peter Woods just on that possibility. I think it is a guy that the Vikings would talk about.
This next guy, you've already kind of hinted at him with the gold helmet. He might even have a chip on his shoulder right now after being excluded from the college football playoff. But talk to me about Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love. And I think with a lot of question marks about whether or not Aaron Jones will even be on the roster next season, this is a guy that, 1, makes a lot of sense, and 2, kind of gets the blood pumping just because offensive talent. Yeah, you could argue that maybe prime Dalvin Cook was the last time that the Vikings fans had a explosive running back to watch and kind of like pounding on the ground and pound game, but also a guy who can receive the ball. And I know that you've already hinted in previous episodes that he has shown off that he is a pass catcher here as well.
Yeah, he sure is. And that was the part of his game that improved the most this year, Jeremiah Love. The thing of the just sleek athlete in a bigger package, the explosive, that stuff all speaks for itself. The explosive run rate that he had leading into this season, but the receiving utility that we had seen with Jeremiah Love prior to this season, it was mostly the swings and the screens, check down stuff that was either at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield, and then you let him run after that. We hadn't seen as much prior to this season. Jeremiah Love deployed as a receiver down the field. Create some separation before the ball has left the quarterback's hands, and then we'll try to hit you in the hands and get you out when you're in space downfield. We started to see that this year, and also ball skills for Jeremiah Love. He had some slick one-handed catches. He had catches where contested catches where guys were on him. He was able to corral the ball, and it's the same thing with him. When you get the ball in his hands and he turns upfield, he's got a NOS button, so he can get out of there really quick, and he gets up to his 4.3, low 4.3 4.3 speed real quick. So it's a guy 6 foot, 210 pounds, and he might even weigh in a little bit more this pre-draft process. We'll have to see. And I'll be curious to see when he ends up testing. Is Jeremiah Love, or is he going to go out there and do it in Indianapolis? Of course, he could have a lot of people that he knows because he plays in the building, because plays college ball, played college ball pretty close there at Notre Dame. But Reggie Bush is the comps that Jeremiah Love has been getting. So you can think of going back to USC with Reggie Bush, the explosion there. Very, very similar athletes and very similar physical packages there with the 4.3 speed. The nitpick on Jeremiah Love, and this is sort of the nitpick that was on Reggie Bush, is Jeremiah Love hasn't been a quote-unquote bell cow running back to this point in his career. He shares the workload with Jadarian Price at Notre Dame. Jadarian Price is going to probably go on day 2. Like, I think he's a round 3 guy. He's a fabulous back in his own right. Just like back in the day with Reggie Bush, it was Lendale White, and Jadarian Price is a different kind of a back than Lendale White. But yeah, it goes to the same thing. But Jeremiah Love, crazy explosive. And the thing that you would provide to the Vikings offense, if they are willing to run the ball, you get that explosive element that you're mentioning. Hasn't really been a fixture of the Vikings run game since Dalvin Cook. But then also, you think about Kevin O'Connell and his offense, and then some of the adjustments that Kevin O'Connell's made, and then like going forward next season and into the future, slight modulations that can be made. Are you willing to run the ball a little bit more, and also want to get that running back involved in the pass game a little bit more? Like, everyone out there, you can remember the times where they've sent Aaron Jones out and done like the wheel routes down the field and done some fun stuff like that. That's stuff that Jeremiah Love can do. And then you're asking the opponent to find either a linebacker or a safety to stay on this kid who is 210 pounds, 6 foot, that runs 4.3s. It is a very, very difficult proposition for them. So it's a guy that would allow the creative juices to get going if Kevin O'Connell wants to think about his offense in that way. Obviously it's been a lot of downfield passing, stuff like that to this point, but if Kevin O'Connell willing to make that adjustment, Jeremiah Love is a guy that could look really, really good playing next to McCarthy going forward, a guy that would really help out this offense. So fans are excited about him. I think, right now for Vikings fans, I think Jeremiah Love would be their number one pick. The things that it's Love and Caleb Downs are what most of the fans are talking about. But Jeremiah Love, would you take him? If you're at, let's say 9, right, and then he gets down there, you're at 10, he gets down there, would you end up taking Jeremiah Love? There's going to be the argument of the position value, the same way that there will be with Caleb Downs. You'll hear that even more with the running back position. But then you think about it another way. If Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is sitting in that seat and making that final call in April, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, a guy who needs to hit a home run with his pick, cannot have a bust with that pick. If you're
for sure
that 9th, 10th, 11th pick, Jeremiah Love and Caleb Downs, barring health, they will be stars in the NFL. Yeah, they're positions that are a little bit devalued, but the odds of at least hitting on those guys very, very high. So, something else sort of to consider there.
Let me ask you this then, because we're a year removed from the Ashton Jeanty hype train, and granted, like, it's a bad Raiders offense. You expected probably more from him, but he was the greatest thing, I think, since sliced bread heading into the draft last year. Where do you value him compared to a Jeanty in terms of draft profile? We don't know combine numbers yet, but do you think he's a step below, multiple steps below, about same playing field? Where do you think compared to those two guys?
I would have Jeanty just a little bit above Love. And okay. I'm not holding Jeanty's situation against him this year. You're playing behind the terrible offensive line. All the stuff that was going on there with the offense where they fired Chip Kelly, and it seemed like, is Chip Kelly actually calling the plays, or is Pete Carroll forcing him to call a Shane Waldron playbook here? And then without the passing game. So Jeanty gets ganged up on, but he was a superb prospect. And Jeremiah Love is close, close to him, and a little bit different, right? Like Jeanty, it's more the tackle breaking is his kind of superpower, whereas Love is a bit more explosive than him and is a bit better athlete than Jeanty. But yeah, for the Vikings offense, it's interesting to think about, especially with the improvements we've seen from Jeremiah Love as a receiver this year. The other nitpick with the last one, not a great pass blocker, but with how good of a receiver he has turned into, I wouldn't be asking him to stay back and pass block much. Anyway, I want him sent out on the routes, but he's a guy the Vikings are going to be looking into for sure.
Okay. And then last one here before we get to our mock draft for the day. And this is one where maybe after this past weekend, it rises on just in a vacuum. It rises on the amount of need because 3 touchdowns thrown by JJ McCarthy, all to tight ends, with questions swirling about TJ Hawkinson's future with the Vikings. Is a guy like, if I can pull up the name here, Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. Is he a guy that should be on the Vikings radar heading into draft day?
He is if TJ Hawkinson's not on your roster anymore. Mm-hmm. And that if TJ Hawkins is not on the roster anymore, and then you get through the free agency period and no one else has been added, that's when you would be on Kenyon Sadiq watch. And Kenyon Sadiq is going to go somewhere in this range. I think just outside of the top 10, but somewhere between or could be around, it could be 10, but somewhere in that 10 to 19 kind of a range is where I think Sadiq will go. Crazy athlete. All these guys are, of course, but Kenyon Sadiq, he has a verified 41.5-inch vertical at 245 pounds. That is legitimately freakish. And when you see this guy with the ball in his hands, looks like a wide receiver. Just his acceleration, the agility, and he's got long speed as well. It's a guy that Oregon has manufactured touches for closer to the line of scrimmage. And last year, the reason was because they had Terrence Ferguson, guy that was taken second round by the Los Angeles Rams. And so Ferguson did the traditional tight end stuff. And then Sadiq, they would manufacture these touches. And then you watch him kind of run. This year, Sadiq has been able to do more of the traditional kind of stuff. One thing about his game we haven't seen quite as much is way down the field. We have seen some. It's just that Oregon hasn't deployed him like that throughout, but the running after the catch, great, and a crazy good blocker, Kenyon Sadiq. You wouldn't think it from his frame, 6'3", 245, but just an absolute dog of a run blocker that is looking to bury people. He has really fun run blocking tape and is going to be, if not the best run blocking tight end in this class, one of the top couple. And for a guy who is as skilled of a receiver and as awesome of an athlete as Kenyon Sadiq is, there's utility there. And obviously in the Vikings they talk about Jefferson's blocking. They signed Josh Oliver because of his blocking. They want blocking, right? Yeah. Like, for the run, like Kenyon Sadiq going to bring that to you in addition to all the stuff that you get with him as a receiver. And AJ, you mentioned McCarthy and his love for tight ends. We saw that at Michigan earlier in his career with Colson Loveland and AJ Barner. And then of course we've seen it in the NFL so far. And then the first 3 TD passing game of McCarthy's career on Sunday. Like you mentioned, 2 of those go to Oliver, 1 of them go to Hawkinson. The Hawkinson question is the one that the Sadiq around the Vikings that centers around. Is TJ Hawkinson after the season, is he going to be released or are you going to restructure his contract? Either one of those 2 things is going to open up a whole bunch of cap space for you. Yep. We just don't know the direction right now that the Vikings will end up going in. But if you wave goodbye to TJ Hawkinson, all of a sudden Kenyon Sadiq in play, and Kenyon Sadiq is the only first-round tight end that we're going to have in this class. There's interesting ones on day 2 as well, and guys that could fill a receiving tight end role. Okay. And we'll get into those guys more as we go in the spring. But if you want the stud of this class at that position, that is Kenyon Sadiq.
All right. So it sounds like what you're telling me is there are some very talented guys, but the 2 that you are thinking Vikings fans should really keep an eye on are Ohio State's Caleb Downs, safety, Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love.
And the top corners in the class. I think right now. Yeah. Prior to a Hawkinson decision. And then, and then also, of course, outside the vacuum of context of knowing is could this guy fall? Could that guy fall? That maybe should go in the top 5 or 6, like a case like Peter Woods. But yeah, I think, again, a lot of Viking fans now talking about Jeremiah Love, talking about Caleb Downs. And I think that's fair. Those guys are going to be in play. The Vikings are going to look deep into those 2 guys. But I also think we have to be talking about the top cornerbacks in this class as well.
Well, let's maybe see if we can put some things together here with our own mock draft. And I'll pop it up for the YouTube audience here. We're going to our friends over at pff.com with their mock draft simulator. Last week we did a 2-round. I think we bump it up and we trickle into that 3rd round later today. What do you say, Thor?
Let's do it. Yeah. And then we can add 2 more picks. Vikings got 2 third-round picks this year. So we take the exercise from 2 to 3 rounds. Now we go from 2 to 4 picks. So let's do this thing. And AJ, should we look into trades this time too?
Oh, I think so. Tell you what.
Okay, let's do it. Depending on the way the board falls. We ain't going to force nothing. Yeah.
So we'll start here. I'm going to start the draft. I don't think we're going to be able to move up. It doesn't make sense.
And we got a new top of the first round order got really jumbled this week because the Titans, who have been at the top all fall, with the upset of the Browns, now you end up shaking that thing up a little bit. And of course, the Commanders, who we saw this weekend, they're up to 6. But yeah, it's interesting. Let's get into this. This is my first time with this new order.
So let's do this here. Giants are going to go with Caleb. Oh wow. I'm going to stop that right there. So your guy right off the bat, they say we're not going to move. And granted, that's fine. But Caleb Downs right off the bat. Do you think that is you love him, but is that a first overall type of pick right there?
No, that's not going to happen. In that scenario, you would get the auction for the first overall pick. There's obviously a couple of teams up here, Giants, Titans, for sure. And we'll see about the Browns with Shadir Sanders and the Saints with Tyler Shuck and how those guys play down the stretch. And if they can convince those teams, like we don't need a quarterback, but there's, certainly the Titans and the Giants with Cam Ward and Jackson Dart respectively. If they get the number 1 pick, it's going to be a straight auction with the quarterback needy teams. Who is going to offer us the most? So yeah, Caleb Downs, the Giants have weird needs too. The offensive line has been an issue for them for years and years and years, but there isn't an offensive lineman in this class that you can take that high. Yeah. So that's why the PFF system, without giving trades for the teams themselves, that's why you see the Giants taking Downs there. But yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
So we'll keep the ball rolling here. Raiders on the clock now with pick number 2. They go with Ruben Bain Jr.
I love Ruben Bain Jr. Not a need for the Vikings, but yeah, that kid is really, really good. Oh, there goes Mendoza. Shadir's not happy right now. Mendoza gets, for audio audience, Mendoza just got taken by the Browns at number 4.
And then Jeremiah Love gets taken up by the Washington Commanders here at pick 6. So the options that maybe you would like, Dante Moore goes at 7 there to the Jets.
We'll see if Dante Moore ends up being in this class. Yeah, and then Peter Woods, we were just talking about, goes 8. Jermod McCoy is the dude I was talking about earlier, the cornerback from Tennessee in this exercise. He just went 9th. Wouldn't be a fit there for me. I had too many questions there with McCoy coming off that injury, and it was a 1-year breakout guy. Mm-hmm. Not for me that high in the draft. As someone else, if another franchise loves him because of the 1-year tape 2024, knock yourself out. But he would not be on my short list here. So we got a couple, AJ. I mean, like Delane has been the guy that I've been taking here. He is still on the board. That's the guy that I would have CB1, as we were just talking about. Mm-hmm. That would probably be, if we're staying in this slot, that would probably be the leader in the clubhouse for me. Kenyon Sadiq is still out there as well. Yep. PFF ranks him 19. I'll probably have him
23.4. So like if you really wanted to go get your tight end guy, we could probably, assuming that in the offseason they restructured or released Hawkinson, we could probably move back and get some capital there. But
potential trade down guy. Yeah. And then Avion Terrell, the other guy that I got to shout out, the Clemson cornerback. I love Avion Terrell's game. He's the brother of AJ Terrell, the Falcons cornerback. That it's another guy where, talking about the cornerback thing, and Avion Terrell's a little bit, he's 5'10" and change, a little bit on the smaller side. I do think he is going to stay on the boundary in the NFL. His game is befitting of it. He's very, very aggressive. The press stuff off the line gets his hands on you. You have that nitpick of the size thing, but again, not a guy that I think is going to be forced into nickel, but one of the better run defenders as well for the cornerback class. AJ, let's take a look at the trades.
Yeah, let's see who's interested here.
There's not like one that has fallen here where we have to do it. So this is where I would listen to potential calls. Are the Chargers the highest team that are offering us a trade? Because I don't want to bounce back 14 spots. This one will really be reminiscent of the Kyle Hamilton trade down.
Yeah, so
fans PTSD if we did this one.
Of teams interested, Chargers are willing to move off their pick 25. San Francisco right behind them at pick 26. Or we could even go way into the second round here with the Bengals offering up pick 42, who I assume we could get a lot of capital back if that's the best pick they're offering. But at the same time, that is a massive jump down. Don't you think? Like, that would be a draft day nightmare.
We're not willing to fall down that much. If we had an offer of a team, where we didn't have to move outside the top 20 with the amount of guys still on the board we like here, Delane, Sadiq, that sort of a thing, I would have been willing to hop back 5, 6, 7 spots, but I'm not hopping back to 25. I don't want to go back 14 spots and get shut out here of guys that we like. So, AJ, we're going to be taking my boy Mansoor Delane, Delane Island, and we have solved the boundary cornerback issue. Byron Murphy, welcome back to nickel. Josh Metellus, welcome back to your move piece roll.
So we'll move here. David Bailey goes to the Dolphins, and kind of while we're waiting for the next. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to mention with David Bailey coming off, tomorrow is Ask Thor Anything, and questions in the YouTube comments, and we'll hit those tomorrow. Someone had asked this week about if we could go through Texas Tech NFL prospects that the Vikings could potentially look at. Sir, wherever you are, I can do you one better. Next week, we are going to do, we'll start with a deep dive of CFP teams, prospects to watch in those games from the perspective of Vikings fans, guys to look into, so including Texas Tech, but the other ones as well. We'll give you guys like a game by game sort of a preview of like prospects that you can look for in those games.
Before we move on here, is there anybody that, just a recap here, Terrell went at pick 20 to the Steelers.
The Lions took Sadiq. That's funny. The team that gave us Hawkinson, now they're going and taking Sadiq there at 17.
Is there any reason that we like your guy? I don't think I saw him go, but Peter Woods is still going to be on the board.
No, Woods went early, right?
Oh, did he?
Woods went top 10, didn't he?
You're right.
Yeah,
okay.
1-8.
That totally skipped by me. So I was going to say, maybe do we want to try to trade back in? But that doesn't make as much sense now. So we'll resume here heading into the second round. Seahawks are going to go with LT Overton. And yeah, like Thor said, tomorrow Ask Thor Anything Thursday. So if you haven't already, drop some questions for Thor in the comment section here on YouTube, and I will pull those for tomorrow's show. But coming up here, Vikings have their next pick at pick 43. So we're coming up on that here very, very soon.
Colton Hood, who they just had go as the first pick in the second round, I actually prefer him to Jermod McCoy, the cornerback that PFF had going first off the board. They play for the same team, but they've never been on the field together because Colton Hood came over as a transfer this offseason, whereas McCoy did the previous offseason. But Hood has pulled the same trick that McCoy did the year before, where he's come over and he's just been dominant. So Colton Hood, I think at this point, we have to see with the medicals, we have to see with the testing, but right now I think I would prefer Colton Hood over Jermod McCoy.
At pick 43 here, what positions do you want to see that we can maybe look at who's available still, that anybody piques your interest? I've got 6 teams that are willing to make a trade here. You got the Jets at pick 47, the Panthers at 48, Tampa Bay at 51, LA Chargers at 57, the Patriots at 62, and the Raiders at 66. So we have.
All right, we're getting lots of calls. Give me a quick scroll down of, just do the overall board there, AJ. Just give me a quick scroll down.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's still some pretty solid options. I know you had mentioned previously Anthony Hill Jr.
Anthony Hill Jr., the Texas linebacker, just officially declared for the draft earlier this week. Vikings could have an off-ball linebacker need. If Wilson walks out the door, Wilson going to be a free agent. And if he does, if Wilson signs elsewhere, you're going to get a comp pick out of that. Mm-hmm. So, but if he does, you need to get another starter at off-ball linebacker. So whether it's Hill, whether it's CJ Allen from Georgia, the guy that went right before us, those guys would be in play. Just a little bit further down, Jonah Coleman's interesting here. As far as the running back thing, you miss out on Jeremiah Love. Okay, let's trade this pick, AJ. I think there's enough guys out there. I'm comfortable trading down from 43 here. Let's try to get a team where we can add a third round pick. So I don't want to do the Jets.
We've got Jets at 47. You say you don't want to do them. Panthers at 48. Buccaneers at 51. So you're moving back 8 picks there. Maybe. Chargers at 57, Patriots at 62, or Raiders at 66. Who do you want to try to?
Of those teams, who has attractive third round pick on there? It's not on my side. It only shows the Jets.
Let's see.
You know what the rest of their I see now.
So the Chargers here, they got 57 and 89. Patriots have 62 and 94. Panthers have 48 and 80. Let's see.
Let's try the Bucks. See, go 43, then toss in 51, 83, and then see how much we gotta add there. So 31%.
What if we did? It's about a 50-50, but what if we did 43 and 173 for 51 and 83?
Let's try that.
Let's see if that's gonna. No, 4 attempts remaining. So
toss in our 224. So 52% goes up to 56%. We'll see if we can get this done.
There we
got it.
So we've moved back now. We'll let them make their pick and we'll come up here. So we move from 43 down to 51 while also picking up pick 83. So now we're
gonna be kings of the castle in the third round of this draft. Now we got 3 picks in that round. Got some ammo to fire now.
So there's Anthony Hill Jr., that linebacker you mentioned coming up here. This might be a nice spot for you to take your boy. What was it? Jonah Coleman.
Jonah
Coleman. But yeah, we have 3 trade offers. Philadelphia at pick 53 want to move up. Arizona at 72, and the Bengals here at 74.
Go back to the Eagles one really quick.
Yeah, so they have pick 53, and they have the Jets as 71. Along with 85.
See 51 and 97 for 53 and 71. See what they would say about that.
97 for 53 and 71.
Because I think I can still get Coleman. Toss in 199.
Up to a 42. Oh, let's see. Maybe they're feeling ambitious, and they are. All right.
Bam.
So boom, we just moved 2 picks back here.
So we moved up in the third round in order to hop back 2 spots here. Okay, and Jonah Coleman's still on the board. The Eagles ended up taking Jeremy Bernard, the Alabama wide receiver. The other guy that could be in range here, you go cornerback first round, would be Dylan Thieneman from Oregon. Dylan Thieneman, that's the guy that is the traditional center field safety. AJ, you see the step back that Thieneman took last year, 2024. Yeah. He was awesome as a true freshman, 2023. But last year, 2024, Purdue decided to take him from what he's good at as a center field free safety and tried to make him into a move piece guy. That's not his game. And so he ends up, the game kind of devolves there. This year, more as the center field safety. Now he is the guy, that he has been. That would be the decision for me, would be between, obviously, Harrison Smith walking out the door. Thieneman would be a pretty good, apples to apples kind of, not as good of a certainly prospector, and certainly wouldn't be predicting that he's going to become a Hall of Fame player like Harrison Smith. But those would be the 2 guys to be between for me. AJ, I think I'm going to take Dylan Thieneman from Oregon here to replace Harrison Smith. We're going to shoot 2 bullets to start right at the secondary and get 2 day 1 starters. As much as I like Jonah Coleman, I think that he would be, he would step in here. In that scenario, that's assuming that you have cut Aaron Jones, and then it would be Jonah Coleman and Jordan Mason. But I had to take Thieneman there. I think there's a little bit of a drop after him, and especially when you're just considering the center field free safeties, he's a really, really good one.
Here's what I'm stopping here because we still have the 71, 75, and 83 still to go today through the third round. If you want, we could always try to package one of those with a 189 or something like that and move up to take a Jonah Coleman before we get into the third round. Or if you think he might slip a little bit here, we could let this thing ride.
Go to the 63rd pick and stop it there on the Rams, because I don't think these next 3 teams are going to. Oh no! Oh, how did the Packers do that? Wow. Well, good. You had the right call on that. The Packers, you have Josh Jacobs, you have all these different guys, but apparently, whatever. We don't want Jonah Coleman. Green Bay, you take him. Yeah, it was definitely a good thought. Yeah, but then we get stuck. How are they going to take him with?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I thought we could. I got a little too sneaky there. I thought we could go back to the Rams pick there at 63, and he'd still be there. But that's okay.
That's all right. So we're coming up here. We're gonna have a bundle of picks here, almost right in a row. So Lenore Sellers goes, Taurine York, Rod Moore. I mean, this is at this stage of the draft. I think this is not going to be like cream of the crop guys by any means. But would you say that there's still the option to get some quality players here in this kind of mid third round area?
Sure is. And I'm seeing one that I want right now. I don't know that I'm going to be able to turn away from Dominic Orange, big citrus from Iowa State. I was kind of thinking maybe we go with offense with this pick, but if Dominic Orange is here, because we're in the third round now, right? We just moved into the third round.
Yes.
Dominic Orange is one of your better run defending true nose tackles in this class. This is a guy that would replace everything that you lost with Harrison Phillips and more. You can't uproot Dominic Orange when you want to move him out of the hole. He will occupy 2 offensive linemen. He has occupied 3 without moving back. Go back to the Kansas State game. You see this on his film. The pass rushing with him, with Dominic Orange, he can bull rush a little bit, but that's kind of it. That it's a limited utility there. But dominant run defender in Dominic Orange, in a guy, again, you put over center, and he will occupy guys and make it a lot easier for the second level linebackers to run around. When Harrison Phillips was traded, you saw how Ivan Pace's run defense fell off a shelf. You would get utility back like that. You take a guy like Dominic Orange. It's going to take a better man than me to pass on Dominic Orange in the third round. Big Citrus, come on down. You are a Minnesota Viking.
Love it. All right, so we go defense again there, but I don't think that's going to be too bad because just a couple picks later, we're back on the clock here at pick 75. We've got 75 and 83 in our pocket still. Where do you want to go here?
So we've hit cornerback, we've hit safety, we've hit interior defensive line.
Mansoor Delane, cornerback. Dylan Thieneman, safety, and now Dominic Orange or Dominic. I'll take your word for it. Dominic
we just call him Big Citrus.
Big Citrus. Welcome here.
Big Citrus.
Another D lineman though. So we have neglected the offensive side of the ball entirely.
Yeah, positions we'd be thinking about now that we haven't hit: running back, center, potentially tight end, again, depending on the Hawkinson thing. Receiver depth is something we're going to have to consider as well. Jalen Naylor, presumably walking out the door. And then, did I say off-ball linebacker yet? Would be another one. That's the scenario if Eric Wilson ends up leaving, need another starter there.
Whoops, I accidentally cleared the queue instead of adding linebacker there. So, Here's where you're looking at. I'll give you a little bit of a scroll here. Jadarian Price is there. Skylar Bell, Justin Jolie, Chase Basantis. I don't know if any of these guys are doing. Some
people really like Jacob Rodriguez had a dominant season for Texas Tech. It's going to be fascinating to see how he tests. The measurables are the thing with him, but you see 93.3 PFF grade this year. He has been insane in the flash plays that he has made. With Jacob Rodriguez, I really have to see how he tests because it's a smaller guy that played. He was a quarterback earlier in his career when he went to college and has been such a fabulous position convert. But I think I don't think I'm going to go with Rodriguez here.
Okay.
I'm going to disappoint the guy that asked about the Texas Tech question, but we'll talk more about those guys future episode here. I might be leaning right now Jadarian Price. To bring the running back in. Skylar Bell, the receiver from UConn, intrigues me as well. But I think with the Skylar Bell had a great year, and a guy the NFL is very aware of. Got pounded with targets on a UConn team that was pretty good this year, only lost in overtimes. Jadarian Price, if Jadarian Price had been at another school, he would get talked about a lot more. It's been the thing of you're in the shadow of Jeremiah Love, but Jadarian Price, a fabulous back in his own right. The thing that would be interesting here with him to think about, Jadarian Price as a Viking. Jadarian Price hasn't gotten a ton of pass game work in his career. He's very, very good at making people miss. It's like the chicken in the coop, like getting your hands on him. Very, very shifty. Really like his feel as a runner, and then his ability to make people miss and break tackles. But if you took him and you've released Aaron Jones, right, like in this thought experiment, Jordan Mason is not good on passing downs either. That would require you getting a passing down back, I think. Right. And so that's sort of the thought experiment there. With the Viking, would you sign a dude, some sort of, I'm not saying Austin Eckler, but a guy like that, like a veteran that would come in cheap and do that stuff for you? Or would you set it up to do the thing I was talking about last year of taking two backs? That would be the only potential problematic thing there. But because of that, now I'm talking myself out of it, of not taking, not taking Jadarian Price. Let's take a look at the trade, just see if we can. So there's any possibility. Just
Baltimore wants to move off of 77. They have picks 113, 146, 152. Kansas City has picks 78, so one behind them, and they have 123, 150. They have a handful there as well.
Okay, but we couldn't add another round 3, right? Like there's not a possibility to add 2, like by adding stuff. So no. With those ones, just because we can't add in the exercise, let's turn those down. Like I said, could go a tight end. The center position. Do you have show tackles really quick? I want to see if Brian Parker's still out there. Brian Parker's a guy that's going to get converted to center. Brian Parker's interesting to me here. Brian Parker, it reminds me of Graham Barton from a couple years ago, where he was a dominant collegiate tackle who lacked length and is clearly going to get kicked inside. And Brian Parker, you see it there. He's played both left tackle, but recently more right tackle. But he's been awesome there. But he's going inside. I have his unofficial measurements here just to give you guys an idea, if I can find them in my sheets really quick, of the length thing that I'm talking about, with the wingspan under 80. It's a guy that is going to kick inside. Let's take Brian Parker. Brian Parker, this is the guy that addresses our center need, and you have position versatility there as well. Something that speaks to the offensive line depth, which, as we found out this fall, is utterly lacking on the team currently. So I think you get a lot of utility there from Brian Parker. I like Brian Parker a bit more clearly than PFF does. I think that would be a good pick here for the Vikes.
And then there's Jadarian Price going off the board at 80 to the Panthers, and then background to us here. So you do have your guy Skylar Bell if you did want to address potential wide receiver with the wide receiver depth. Otherwise, is there any other position that maybe might be scratching an itch in the back of your brain?
Certainly still running back, something that we're still and then off-ball linebacker, of course.
For those two,
Rodriguez still there.
Rodriguez still there. Nick Singleton, Katron
Singleton
Allen.
interests me too.
What can you tell me about him?
Nicholas Singleton is a guy that would have gone higher if he'd come out in the class last year, which is funny because that one is a more stacked class. But Singleton comes back. They all wanted to chase the title, and they all had bad seasons. Nicholas Singleton is a guy where he's going to regain some of his stock when he goes to the combine, because he's going to test as a top 99.9% running back athlete, like legitimately. I've been saying freakish a lot, but this kid is an absolutely amazing athlete. The issue with Nicholas Singleton is the feel and the vision as a runner, but Nicholas Singleton is a really good receiving running back. I actually think Nicholas Singleton would be a cool stylistic guy to pair with Jordan Mason. I think their skill sets go together really well, whereas Price and Mason maybe not so good, but Mason could do kind of the early down between the tackles, the meat and potato stuff. Then you could have Singleton brings you the explosive element and brings you the receiving element. It's just the vision and the feel. It's not something I want to give that guy 250 carries in the NFL, but a team that can use him situationally. This is intriguing, because this one for me, I Jacob Rodriguez and Nicholas Singleton, both guys at positions of need here that sit on the top of their value board, and I think I would agree with that. I would be between those two guys. Oh man, this is a tough. When's our next pick? Are we up again real quick after that because of all of our?
This is our final pick of the third round.
Dang it!
So we could take one and try to and we could try it. I mean, if you want to go with the the bad faith of we're just doing a 3-round mock, we don't care about rounds 4 or 5, whatever. We could try to move back in.
No. Let's. I'm going to devastate our Texas Tech friend. Let's take Nicholas Singleton. I feel like at this point in the draft, this is really, really good value, and this kid is a thoroughbred of an athlete. And again, a guy that would fit really well with Jordan Mason. The off-ball linebacker thing, we're going to have to save that for next round. The hypothetical next round that we're not going to be doing, but. That was a tough call. Either of those guys wouldn't have been a wrong decision, but I just think Singleton, a very good fit with Mason.
Well, I'll tell you what here, as we approach, we're coming up to the end of the third round.
There's Skylar Bell.
But
Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety from Toledo, is a guy I'm interested in. If the safety need is not hit earlier, it's a guy that you can move around a little bit.
Is this surprising to you that Rodriguez still has not been taken now that we're at pick 96 and counting?
Just because of the position value thing, maybe not quite as much. Like I think that Rodriguez probably will be a 4th round pick. PFF on their board has him as a round 3, but it doesn't look like he slipped in there in this one. But yeah, I think, for Vikings, you're thinking about that's probably a round 4 guy. And of course, dependent on the testing, but Rodriguez not expected to test as well. And he's in a smaller frame as well. But the production on the field speaks for itself for an amazing, amazing defense.
So they are going to give the Mansoor Delane pick a B- at pick 13, at pick 11. Thieneman, a B grade. Dominic, Big Citrus at 71, a B grade. And then not as huge of fans as maybe you are of Brian Parker, but I think that's because you said you're going to move him inside to the center position. And then Nicholas Singleton, a D+ at pick 83.
Yeah, I think Brian Parker is going to move up boards. You think about him as a tackle, and that's when you start nitpicking. It's like, oh, he's got T-Rex arms, and, in the NFL, will he be, is that going to nullify? I'm already conceding that. I'm kicking him into center where I think he's going to be good. And my theory, we're going to test that out in the pre-draft process. It's like Gray Zabel last year. I remember in Mobile, late January last year, Gray Zabel, the North Dakota State, he'd been the dominant left tackle there. They played him at all 5 positions, and the prospects across from him found out that none of them could beat him wherever he was, right? And then he ends up getting taken as a 1st-round pick by Seattle. But that was sort of the thing where Gray Zabel starts out his draft process planting his flag of like, I'm not a short arm tackle. I'm a guy that could play all over the place, and I'm a guy that can start in the NFL right away. Brian Parker, he go and do that early on in the process, and then he tests decent. And I think he's a solid athlete as well. That's where he ends up moving up the board. But yeah, certainly I'm higher on him than PFF right now. And then Singleton's a guy going to move up as well. Once he goes to the combine, because at that point, when you test as a 99.9% historical athlete at the running back position, the NFL will stand up and recognize that. That's not a guy that's going to fall out of round 3. That's where I think he's going, and probably just a little bit ahead of where we end up getting him here in this exercise with the 83rd overall pick. But they're giving us a C+. I'm going to give us a higher grade here. Several day 1 starters here. You fill 2 spots in the secondary day 1 with starters. I think Dominic Orange wouldn't be playing every single snap, but it's early down starter there as well. The nose tackle thing that right now maybe you don't have to improve that thing, and just get him out on passing downs. No problem. Brian Parker, I think, is going to compete to be your center day 1. Ryan Kelly, I think, going to be released this offseason. And then Nicholas Singleton, that's the thing where if you release Aaron Jones, ready-made replacement for him to pair with Jordan Mason. So I like this class, obviously, a lot more than maybe PFF does.
Well, I know we're going to have a good number of those here coming down the pipeline here as we continue with War Room Wednesdays in the future. Quick reminder, tomorrow, Thursday, Ask Thor Anything Thursday. So I know we touched on already, but make sure to drop questions for Thor in the YouTube comment section. If you haven't done so on previous videos, I'll grab some of the ones that maybe catch my eye, and we'll air those out tomorrow. Otherwise, Thor, you want to take us home here?
Yeah. In addition to that, please rate, review, subscribe. Is there a 5-star review? I think I'll be shouting out the folks that gave us the 5-star reviews on tomorrow's episode. So anyone want to get in there, we would appreciate it. Really helps out the new show, new channel, that sort of thing. Thank you for that. That's all we have for today's edition of Thor Talks Purple, the War Room Wednesday edition. Tomorrow we go to Ask Thor Anything. We'll see you then.